Matt White. You're watching Racing-Leagues.com with Steve O'Connor and Troy Allen.
Good morning, good evening everybody. This is your host Steve O'Connor, alongside me Troy Allen. Welcome to Racing-Leagues.com V8Supercars. This is pre-season event 2 from Winton Motor Raceway. How are you this morning, Troy, or this evening?
Yeah, not too bad, Steve. It's good to be here. It's definitely one of those tracks that takes you a while to get a rhythm on there, but once you find it, it can be quite enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just take a quick look at the track here so we can see. It's quite a unique track, obviously, as most of the Australian and New Zealand tracks are compared to the European ones. I think my favourite part of it is the turn 1-2 complex. It's one of the more interesting ones, especially off the start of the grid. Do you want to talk us around the track there, Troy?
Yeah, well, actually, good timing, because if we can focus on Brett Clark, he can actually take us on a lap and we can talk through at the same time. Now, we're going down the main straight here, probably topping out around the 240, 250 mark. Hard on the brakes is about the 100 metre board. We take that chicane there. Now, crucial part to the lap here is definitely getting good round out of turn 2 on the run down to 3. You want to be really late on the brakes, get your apex out to get your run onto 2. That's a second gear turn. Now, if you're coming out of there, you've got to be very gentle on the throttle, modulate it nicely, otherwise you're going to find yourself breaking into massive wheel spin. Now this turn that Brett's in now, it's very dicey. You want to be trying to accelerate while turning, and the car can get very loose on you. Late brake here, one of the 2 hairpins on the track. Come out of there in second gear, some drivers are using first. Short shift to third, get a bit of drive, back to second now. Punch it out of here, short, back down on the brakes. Now, a good run out of here is crucial for the second sector, and then it leads you into your third sector. Run down the back straight here. You're going to brake as late as possible, probably between the 150 and 100 metre board. Back to second gear. Try and grab a little bit of curb. That's perfect exit there from Brett. Run down here. Now you want to brake as late as possible. Get yourself a nice turn in for that last sector to give you a good run onto the front straight. And Steve, that's a lap of Winton.
Excellent, Troy, and you couldn't pick one of the faster guys there, obviously, to get around it. Winton's always struck me as almost a track of 2 halves, to use the cliche. Bizarrely enough, you've got 3 decent length straights, along with all of the nasty stuff around the back, so it makes the setup for the car, I'd imagine, quite tricky to just get it absolutely nailed.
Definitely, it's definitely a two-section track, because your setup for the first part of the lap in that first sector could be absolutely spot on and you're nailing the sector, but you might sacrifice a little bit of low speed grip, so to speak, in that middle sector where you're going to lose anywhere up to a second, but you might make only back 3/10 on that third sector.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a bit of a challenge for both driver and car, obviously, to get it just right. It also looks like a very flat track with not a lot of cambers. Maybe there's 1 or 2 with a little bit of camber, but from experience, the ability to get a car to work without camber on a track is one of the key ingredients.
Definitely. The problem is you don't want to try and run too much camber, because there is a downward braking section with the first hairpin of the track, and it doesn't look hilly, but the hills are in the wrong places for you to get a decent lap time out of this track.
Excellent. So already we're in the qualifying session. It's a 20-minute session with 15 minutes left. We were following Brett on track live at that point, and he's dropped in a 121.3, which is a pretty decent lap time around here for this early in the qualifying session.
Oh, definitely it is, Steve. I mean, I ran with Brett actually earlier yesterday afternoon, and he came out with some cracking times. But I'll tell you the surprise here, I was actually on track earlier today with Lofty himself, and he was cracking in 24s and 23s, but he's pulled out a 22.3. That's a stellar lap time around here. Nissan's a very difficult car. Look, at Winton it could be better suited because it's not a track that requires a lot of top-end speed. It's more a drive out of the turn, and that's where the Nissan's got a lot of strength there, is it's down low torque and it's getting out of the corner. So you might find that the boys have got a chance to come to grip. I know Dan's spent a lot of time on track this week. I've seen his numbers, and he's capable of dropping into the 22s, even 21s. So I think the boys have definitely spent a lot of time working on their setup, and I think this track will be better suited to the Nissan's characteristics.
That's interesting. So this season, are we going to see the variation in tracks per car that we see in some other series? So are we going to have strengths and weaknesses of each car at the different tracks, or do you think it's going to come good for everybody at some point?
Well, that's going to come down to the fact of whether that track's a driver's strength as well. Because if the driver's in tune with his car and both their strengths are the same and their weaknesses are the same, then yeah, I do think you will see tracks favour certain cars. Your high-speed tracks, it might favour the Falcon. The Falcon does seem to have just that little bit more in a straight line. Aero-wise, it does seem to be the Nissans. The Nissans seem to have a bit more of an advantage when it comes to the tighter, more low down tracks. The Mercedes, that just seems to be a smooth car all round. It's one of those all round type cars. And the Volvo, it's hard to say. You haven't seen enough consistency from a Volvo in the live series to actually make a fair judgment on them.
Yeah, that is true actually. There's just when they seem to be getting the speed unlocked, something breaks. So hopefully we don't have the same this season, but from what we've seen so far, we really haven't seen enough Volvos or Mercedes on track to actually make a judgment on them, a fair assessment.
No, definitely not. And the Commodores, well, they'll just do what a Commodore does. They're just thereabouts, reliable. They're good in a straight line. They've got a little bit out of the corner, but they're sort of at the mid pack, I'd say, and a good driver will take them by the scruff of the neck and get them around the track in a good time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a good spread across the marks at the moment, apart from the Volvo and the Mercedes, only a few of those out. Just interesting to look at the top speed lap-wise. They're all in around 231 kilometers per hour, so 231, 232 for one of the hold-ins is the fastest at the moment. So they seem to be nicely balanced.
And that comes down to the aero efficiency of the cars, because there was so much testing done by V8 Supercars to make sure that the drag was the same across the board, because there's a lot of touring car fans would remember the whole argument about 10 years ago between Ford and Holden saying, oh, Holden's got too good an aero package. They brought in a Project Blueprint where all cars' aerodynamics now must be the same drag efficiency level, and it all comes down now to the engine department as to what top end speed you're going to get. You're going to be hard pressed to find a Nissan at the top end of that top speed chart.
This is true. Okay, so you're referring to the infamous coast down test. I've got some very good opinions on that, forthright ones. I think in this day and age to be running something like a coast down test on what is a very expensive V8 supercar, it's probably not the best way to do this. What's your opinion, Troy?
Oh look, realistically, if you're going to go that primitive with an aerodynamics test, then what's the point in having an aerodynamics limit?
Yeah, fair enough, but I do think that there's better ways to do this, and we wouldn't have the debacle we had with the Nissan originally. The Nissan, obviously, from what I can recall, was judged as a very slippery aero-wise. and V8 Supercars legislated against it slightly, and then obviously the engine power wasn't there to drag the now less slippery shape along, and we had the Nissan struggling for a year. So you know, there's better ways of doing these things, I think.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, if they were just to speak to FIA or some of the top motorsporting bodies, you know, even go and speak to a Formula One team and get their way of working drag and efficiency and this and everything else, you could bring that back, put it across the category and get a lot more accurate reading on drag efficiency, downforce efficiency, the whole lot, and it would create less. Because, I mean, with the coast down effect, you know, you don't know, is the wind different on that day by half a kilometre? That's going to change everything.
Well, exactly, Troy. That's what I'm saying, is the conditions are never exactly the same right on, you know, when you're doing the test. It's too subjective. It's not enough proper data. But as you say, I mean, you've got Steve Hallam in the paddock. You've got Adrian Burgess, both work with Formula One team. Steve Hallam with Michael Waltrip Racing as well. You know, you had experience there. Surely they could have talked to somebody and got a better sort of set up for this.
Oh, they definitely could have. But then, as what seems to be the way in supercar racing, someone will then have a cry, oh, he's got biasness, he's got this. So I guess the way they just cancelled that chance out and just gone with their own theories.
Yeah, which is fair enough, I suppose. It is what it is. So just taking a quick look back on track, we have Brett Clark, who's now lowered the time to 1:20.5, and following 1.258 seconds behind is his teammate, and last week's star of the weekend, David Kinnaman, in third. And then some of the new guys, Lofty in fourth, Gavin Cox in the number 5 Xbox Falcon in 5th with 1.8 seconds behind. So it's very close in the top 5 if you take out the Brett Clark car. 2 to 5 are covered by a few tenths.
Yeah, just looking at the timing board now, you got about not even 2 tenths. You're looking at 2 100s even.
Exactly, it's phenomenal what these cars have brought to the series this year. The midfield is definitely closing up. The racing is going to be a hell of a lot closer. Obviously, the top guys are going to be the top guys no matter where they go from the looks of it. So it's good to see that they're still able to keep their advantage, whereas the rest of the guys are able to close up that little bit better.
Look, the spread across the whole entire field is dramatically short because, I mean, I remember last season with the 2012 mod, we were anywhere up to 5 to 7 seconds across the field. At the beginning of qualifying, we were only 3.9. Now we're only at 4.6, and that's with probably one of Britt's best laps.
Exactly, yeah, it's a bit of an anomaly, that 20.5, but it's excellent to see it coming in at this time. It should be noted that we've got some of the new guys in here as well, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on.
Definitely, and look, this is a very small track. It's not very long. I think it's only about a 3 kilometre track, if my memory serves me correctly. So you're going to come upon lap traffic very quickly. Now, as you said, a 1:20 lap. If you're 3 to 5 seconds off the pace, give it probably 10, 15 laps, and you're going to have one of the fast guys right on your hammer. Oh, definitely, and one thing that's really going to be key to mention here today is tyre deg. Now, I'm not sure if we're running a dual compound round, but the soft tyre deg...
Yeah, we're running soft tyre only on this one.
Well, that's going to be incredible because the soft tyres are not lasting here. They really aren't. I mean, you do one hot lap and you've lost nearly 10% of your tyre already, so tyre management is going to be crucial to whoever wins this race today.
Absolutely. We had our race last night in the European Series at Bathurst last night. I think I qualified myself third on the grid just behind my 2 teammates, and it was a 20 lap race, hard tyres only, and I was setting up for a 1-stop as Dan, who had qualified just ahead of me, was setting up for a 1-stop as well. And Brett, unfortunately, decided that he didn't need to stop at all and absolutely spanked the field, kept the tyres on the car and brought it home. So I don't think it'll be interesting to see how he gets on here at Winton today.
Well, that's amazing because we had the star of last weekend, Dave Kinnaman, do the same thing at Adelaide with a no stopper. So obviously he's going to be your benchmark for tyre deg, and this is a very high tyre deg track. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dave and Brett now do with their tyres.
Absolutely. If this was last year, I would say there's at least a stop on the horizon. This year, who knows? And that's one of the good things about it. We've absolutely got no clue as to what is likely to happen.
Realistically, if you want to be competitive and keep the pace up, let's say this is a 20-lap race, which I'm pretty sure it is, you'd want to be running a minimum 3 stops.
Yeah, it is a 20 lap race. It'll be interesting to see if they try and stretch it. The pace is there, at least from Brett, anyhow, so he's the only one in the 120s, Dan in the 121.8, and then Dave Kinnaman in the 122s at the minute. So we'll see how Brett's got a second or more to play with there to be able to back it down during the race and keep the tyres on the car. So I'm quite confident that he's going to go for a non-stop.
If he goes non-stop, I'll dead set do backflips these days, because last night in an extremely rubbered up track is what we've got here now, the tyres were not lasting. They really weren't. I was pushing the car and I cracked out at 22.8, and I was only good for probably 3 to 6 laps maximum before the tyres were at a point where you just had no grip.
Yes, that's the thing. I've noticed with these cars, you can use the tyre up till about 20% left on the fronts without losing too much speed, but as soon as you go below that 20%, you're looking for a pit stop almost immediately. It is straight off the cliff and there is nothing left.
Oh, that's exactly right. Now, if we jump on board with Dan, one of the key facts of this track, or the key points of this track for tyre conservation, is the turn that Dan's coming up to now. Because what you've got to do to get time is brake while turning in, and that left front gets unloaded, and it gets a massive flat spot very quickly, which I found out as well during testing.
Excellent. So we've got one of our new camera views on here. The nose cam of the Nissan is right in the front grille. So it's a little bit, apologies if it makes you sick, but you can see the forces that are impacted on the cars as they go around this Winton track. So as we're just seeing live there, Troy, the braking effect, for example, on that Nissan, when he just stamps on the brakes, that car just dives straight into the tarmac.
And that could be two things. He could be running a very high brake pressure setting, or he could be running a very soft front suspension. Not sure. No one's really open to giving away their setups these days.
No, of course not. Especially with the different manufacturers at this point in time, they're not going to give anything away, so the competitors can possibly either point fingers or pull out an advantage by using the same techniques. So we're just going across the start-finish line now into the turn 1, turn 2 complex, and he's hanging out to the right, turning in, getting the apex of the corner on the left, corner 2 on the right, and straight down the back towards Honda corner into the 50-metre board on the brakes, and right on the apex, let it run out wide, go for the apex again on the inside of the next corner, run it out wide to the curbing, and then this last bit right in the back end is really tricky to just get into the apex, hold it in there, and then just keep off the power a little bit before you actually get the throttle back on again into the next little complex left-right, and then the next right-hander. And yeah, the braking force is phenomenal on this, Troy. You can see that Nissan just dive.
Just to interrupt you there, Steve. We've had Dave Kinnaman on a scorching lap and he's jumped a second on the grid.
Yeah, we've just seen that. Actually, he's 0.964 seconds behind, so obviously he's finding the speed once again. And we'll let get Dan back to the standard. Yeah,
just
so
on Dan's car, it's looking a bit unhappy in the rear.
I have noticed that this year with the Nissan. So the Nissan tends to be a little bit understeery at the back. It's running the 2014 spec rear wing as well, so not the newer 2015, which is like the rest of the cars. Do you think that's having an impact on the aero at the rear?
I don't think so. I think that's the only difference is probably about 5mm further back, I think, was the final setting, but you can compensate that in this mod by running a bit more rear wing if that's the case. But I don't know, it just seems to be on turn-in, he may have the front end set up a bit too aggressive for turn-in, and it's just overcompensating with the rear, and it's trying to rotate the car too much.
This is possible. Okay, so there's the finish of qualifying. and we've just got the timing up there on the screen for everybody. So we've got Brett Clark in pole position from Dave Kinnaman, with Dan Stevens in third, Gavin Cox in fourth, Lofty Fletch fifth, Penzo in sixth, Damasta in seventh, Norman Clark bringing up in eighth, Darren in ninth, Ian Hannon 10th, Chris McCall in the Volvo 11th, Darren Walden in the Commodore 12th, Johnny Foz in another Volvo in 13th, and then we've got a few of the other drivers who didn't actually run in qualifying there. So the grid is set, it's looking good. If you just stay with us, we'll switch over to race very shortly. I've been Steve O'Connor alongside Troy Allen.